11 minutes past 8. Good morning. My name is Ifeanyi Andrew. Let's go into a conversation now. So, on the news yesterday, you heard the residents and some property owners in parts of Diob Mile 1 So we heard some property owners, residents in parts of Diob Mile 1 who were affected by the demolition for the construction of the Port Harcourt Ring Road project. Remember, some of the tenants and landlords were speaking with our correspondents and said, well, the state government, the plan of the road was not to even come through this area where people live. It was supposed to be in the waterfront. But that's not our focus this morning. Our focus this morning was some of the complaints that they raised. Some of them said, we are not aware of any meetings with representatives of the government and property owners. They were also worried that they might have been shortchanged during the valuation of their properties. Now, that is our conversation for this morning. The complaints about valuation of the properties and what would have been paid or what should have been paid. If you remember the Rumokuta flyover period, we also had similar issues where people said, well, we're not getting the payment. What we're getting is not what we thought we were supposed to get. They're not paying us for what we think is the right price. A property is worth more than what we're given. In fact, what they are giving us now, if we are to go to the market with it, we cannot build what we just lost. So for that reason, they have their concerns, which is quite understandable. So this morning, we are going to be looking at that property valuation for those areas. What is entailed in this exercise? What exactly how is it done? What should you be expecting as a property owner in any of these areas where the demolition exercise would be taking place in Port Harcourt for the Ring Road project? And my guest this morning is well known. She is a seasoned real estate consultant, and also she's been with us on the show before. Yes, she has been with us on the show before. We had a conversation around this. She's an estate surveyor. She's a valuer. She's a member of the Nigerian Institution of Estate, Surveyor and Valuers as well. I'm talking about Dinah Opulah. You're welcome. Hello, Mrs. Opulah. You're welcome.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning to you. Great to have you with us this morning.
Yeah, same here.
All right. So before we get into the conversation, I'll just play an excerpt from some of the people that our correspondent spoke with who had their whose properties were affected and what they had to say about the valuation and what they feel they got as compensation for their property.
We've not been called for any meeting yet as far as landlords in the area is concerned, or if there's any meeting I don't know about it. The much I know is that estate surveyors that we are in contact with have said once the enumeration exercise is done, there will be a time they will call for meeting.
Some of the buildings that worth like 50 million, the compensation was 20 million, some of them 10 million. And those that doesn't have CFO was given 10 million or you forfeit it. And then they will force you to accept it or you forfeit the house. So they will now build the price high for government while they are paying peanuts to the landlords.
From the experience we had at Ilabuchi as Kiwe, the government will come to destroy things. You will see hoodlums who will invade people's house, losing people's roof, saying that government have settled them. That is their own chopping.
Okay, so some of the people who were affected in previous demolitions and the current enumeration for the demolition for the Ring Road project, and what stuck out for me was some of them saying, "Oh, houses that are this amount of money, this is the amount of money they pay you." Some of them are even saying we're not even aware. There's no meeting. They've not told us anything. They just came and are saying. There's even another person who had said they came and destroyed a huge part of my house that for the road, and then they are paying me small money that cannot even build back the house. So there's just a lot of things around this demolition that would begin shortly. At the moment, enumeration is still ongoing. Mrs. Opulah, if you can just clarify for us, what are the demands for valuation of a structure in situations like this?
Okay, this valuation is for compensation purposes. And for compensation, it cannot give you the actual market value of your property. Like we rightly said, according to the Land Use Act of 1978, all lands are vested in the hands of the governor of the state. And the compensation is paid on the building, the structure itself. When they are doing the valuation for the building, they don't put the cost of land. And I'm not saying that is right. I'm just saying those are the issues that we have in compensation valuation. So now, without the cost of land, we are just going to value the cost of the affected part of your property, which I also mentioned the last time I came to your station, that now, if you have a full 4-bedroom apartment or flat, and we don't want to cut out, we are not demolishing everything. So you might now cut out maybe inside your kitchen, or you might stop at your bathroom. You know, we are still going to value what we cut out, which is one of the challenges we are facing.
Okay, so, sorry, let's get that clearly. So, if a part of the building, because I think there was one of the landlords who had said, oh, the other time they removed my house, almost everything, what was left, maybe they stopped at, maybe they took the living room and the dining section and all of that. I only have my kitchen and maybe 2 other rooms remaining standing. So you're saying the valuation compensation would not come for the whole building. It's going to come for only that part that was affected. How do you then value that part that was affected for outside the whole building?
We have measurements that we do now. We have we take measurements on site when we come for the normal assessment. So we know where we are stopping, from the middle of the road to where we know that we are going to have the extended areas for expansion. So we stop there. We cannot now go further just because we want to demolish everything. It's not what they sent us to do. We're supposed to demolish, we're supposed to assess from a particular area within the measurement that the construction or people in charge of the construction of the road and expansion has treated. So there's a measurement for all that.
Okay, so now, because the land is not included in the valuation is only for the structure itself. So people who perhaps might not have structures there but only have lands, are you saying that they might not get any compensation if part of their land is included into the road?
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying that the land itself, a bare land, even if you have a pavement, like maybe you cement, a concrete flooring on something on the slope, you still spend money to do that. But if it's a bare land, that's where I'm saying, no compensation will be paid. But whatever you have on site, be it borehole, be it caravan, any little thing that we know that we had a monetary value apart from the cost of the land, compensation will be paid for it. And like I rightly said, it's a fair and most likely adequate compensation. Not necessarily the cost of the worth of your property. Government is not buying the house from you. They are compensating you because of the public interest, the stuff they are going to do for the public. So they are compensating you for that part.
In other words,
your property,
this compensation isn't done, or the compensation for part of your house that would be taken or demolished in the case of any form of construction by government is not done looking at the economic situation or any of those other indices are not considered from what you've explained. Is that how it works? Does the government sit down and say, we're looking at the current price of things and looking at the current situation, this house currently will cost this
this now?
Of
course, we use construction rates. We try to be fair and adequate because we understand the cost of building. Of course, if it's a new property, we use depreciation methods. If the property is new, we put all those into consideration in valuing the property. What we are saying is that we are not going to value it for market purpose. We are not going to add some things like the value of the land, because land has its own value. That's supposed to make your property higher, but that's not even put into consideration. And we are not saying that it's right. We are just saying this is the procedure for compensation valuation. And that is why even if your property right now is worth 60 million naira, at the end of the day, if it's for compensation, it's going to be like 30 million or 40 million, as the case may be.
All right. So For a lot of people, what would be the advice if I have a house along an area where the government is to construct a road, and that house would need to be demolished, or parts of it would need to be demolished? What advice would you give to me, and what can I do to ensure that I'm not shortchanged and I get adequately compensated?
Well, first thing is to get your own estate surveyor and valuer. The government has contractors, estate surveying and valuation firms that have been contracted to, make assessments of affected properties. When you, as the person that is affected, is supposed to get your own estate surveyor and valuer that can go in line, that can be in liaison with the government owned, to make sure that things that are supposed to be in the valuation is properly recorded. So at least it brings a form of trust that they are not cheating you, because I heard the stuff you just did where they said, oh, the valuers are putting their own stuff and all this stuff and all that. So if your own valuer is representing you rightly, you have little or nothing to worry about in your own personal interest.
All right, well said. We know that you have limited time. Let me quickly just open the phone lines. I would like to take a few questions from the listener. I'm pretty sure they have quite a lot to ask with regards to how this works. 0817-923-0003, 0817-923-0007. If you go on Facebook, Nigeria Info 92.3 PH, we're asking you what your major concern is. Share with us what your major concern is with regards to the demolition and compensation exercise for the construction of the ring road. People have different opinions about what they fear. Some people are even wondering whether the project will be completed, but for many people, and the purposes of this conversation is whether they would be adequately compensated. That is a major one. On WhatsApp, I'll take a few messages here before we go on a very short commercial and come back to my guest to wrap things up with her. Okay, so this question says, I want you guys to tell me whether or not a landlord of an affected or demolished building after compensation still has a right to gather and collect or take away whatever debris that is left. Why I'm asking is because all right, so is that something that you're entitled to after compensation? Are you entitled to the debris?
Of course, yeah. Who's going to take it?
Okay. All right, so because one of the landlords said, "Oh, you have boys from the area who come and say the debris from the demolition is their own choppings, a local way of saying things because the government has paid the landlord, etc., etc." So you're saying, regardless of the compensation, the debris still belongs to the owner of that building, so he can decide to collect it and use it for whatever purposes.
Yes.
All right. All right, let's take a very short commercial. When we come back, we'll just take a few calls, and that will be it with you on the show for us. So just stay on the line for us. In a matter of moments, we'll come back and continue the conversation. Still Nigerian Info. We'll go for a short commercial now. On Facebook, Ohaji Henry says, "Good morning. Is it enough to demolish houses, but will they fix the road as promised? People can be compensated for development purposes." Okay, we'll be back. Stay tuned. Right, we're still here on the Morning Crossfire. Conversation continues, and remember, you can be a part of it. All you need to do is get on Facebook, Nigeria Info 92.3 PH. You can also join the conversation on Twitter, on X, Nigeria Info PH, on Facebook, Nigeria Info 92.3 PH. My guest is Dinah Opulah, estate surveyor, as a consultant as well, a member of the Nigerian Institution of Estate, Surveyor and Valuers. And we're looking at the demolition and valuation exercise for the Ring Road project. This is come following enumeration which is ongoing, and many people hoping whether or not they're going to get adequately compensated. If you'd followed the conversation from the first half, you would have, we established that, well, this is how compensations are done, and this is what compensations are for. So you might not get the exact value for your property, even if it was only half of your property that was destroyed. Well, the government would only be compensating you for that half, and the cost of the land is not also included in the compensation fee. It's only for whatever you spent money to do on that land. So let's say you built a borehole, or you did whatever you built on it, that's what the compensation would be for. And that is also dependent on how much of it was destroyed. Mrs. Opulah, quickly, there was something you said about the Land Use Act, and you also talked about, I remember the last time you were here, the amount of monies per square. I can't remember exactly. If you can help us with how the measurement and how much is being used to look at these valuation processes when they value these houses. How is it done? Is it by square meter, or how does it really work?
Yeah, the construction is per square meter. So if you are taking about 15 square meters from your property, we use a particular amount and do the valuation. So you calculate it per square meter.
Okay, so the cost for per square meter, how is it arrived at? How do we know? How do we come to the conclusion that this is the amount that will be fair for a square meter of a property that is demolished?
We have the rate that we use.
Okay, that's the rate I want to know. What is the rate that is used? Or is it? Hello?
I can hear you.
So what is that rate that is being used?
So for the construction rate, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Oh my goodness, we'll try to reestablish contact with her then. I know the last time we had a conversation, she had talked about this particular rate. I really can't remember the figure exactly right now and how it works. But let's get to the phone lines. I will try to reestablish contact with our guests. 0817-923-0007, 0817-923-0003. Those are the numbers that you can call to join in on the conversation. What is your major concern with regards to the demolition and compensation exercise for the Ring Road project? And on Facebook already a few comments coming in. We'll be taking some of those comments in a matter of moments. Ohaji Henry says, it is not enough to demolish the houses. Will they fix the roads? Okay, this is Henry. Zed Jerry says, I believe we should be talking about the imminent rising price of cooking gas next week. Well, let next week come. Next week come. This one says, good morning. The project is a good one, but it will bring more hardship to the people of the area, especially in times like this. The government should pay them exactly what their property is worth, and it will be more difficult on the traders because where would they relocate to start again? And that's another thing. I think when I get my guest back on, I would have to ask her that question so we'll verify who is the government paying. Good morning, Robin from Echie. You're welcome. Oh, we lost that call. Cookie Gam in Rumolumeni is on the line. Hello, Cookie Gam.
Andrew, good morning.
Good morning.
Andrew, it's Madam is sharing me. I heard that those that have CFO is very different than those that have CFO. I want to confirm whether it is true that those that have CFO, their price is different from those that have CFO. Thank you, Andrew.
All right. I'm pretty sure that question will get across to her.
Good morning.
Hello, good morning. Where are you calling from, please?
Okay, Umukuta.
Okay. Go ahead.
And my question goes this way. Those that have built their houses in Port Harcourt bought their land millions of naira. Some 13 million, some 12 million. And our guest online said that land will not be included in the compensation because land belongs to government. I want to ask, was it government that made the land, or the land was made by the Almighty God? Because her comment is against God's natural law. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Well, that would be a tricky one. But we heard her. For compensation, it's just a compensation. It's not the government buying your property, so it makes it quite difficult. And they're not paying for the land. They're only paying for what you put on the land. Real Gift in Port Harcourt town. Good morning.
Thank you very much. Good morning to you, Mr. Andy.
Yeah, good morning to you.
Please, although you just answered the question I wanted to ask, but somebody has acquired a land. They have a C of O. While you are waiting to put up whatever you want to put up, and this issue comes up, is it proper for that person to go home empty-handed because there is no structure on that land? Because I think paying for only structure on the land, you are shortchanging somebody that has a land, that has bought a land, that has valid documentation, and because he has not put up any structure, yet you jettison that person, and I think it's not the best. And that's why sometimes maybe some persons now, before you know, they might even go there to put up something they call a shrine or a graveyard just to get compensation. But I think they should also look at those who have CFO but have not put something on that land, a structure on that land to get something to, because he don't pay for the land. You understand me? Thank you very much.
Real Gift. Thank you very much. I think if you'd listened to my guest, she'd also said, yes, we might not be comfortable with it. It might not be right, but this is what it is at the moment. If we're going to go by the laid down laws, this is what the situation is. And now would be having conversations as to how we can amend those laws so that they better suit the purposes and serve the people better. If we're to go by what the laws are at the moment, it's the reason why I asked. So if you have a land and there is nothing on the land at all, would you get compensation? And I'm sure you heard the response that was given by my guest when I asked that question. And then landlords are the ones who are also getting paid, because you're going to whatever property you own, documentation for your property, what you have on your property. It is you that will be paid, not the tenant or the person that rented a store from the landlord. You're not the one that will be paid. So if you rented a shop or you built a bacha on somebody's property, it is not you that will be paid. It is the owner of the land. So he's the one that will pay you for your bacha's pay. I don't know if you understand the point, because you would not have the documentation to show that this land and whatever is on it is yours. You are a tenant. Somebody owns it. So it's that person gets. Miriam is in Okrika. Miriam, good morning.
Efemi, good morning. Thank you. This is your Okrika woman. Look, Efemi, going further, I just want to make one suggestion. See, I learned that some buildings have been marked along this Obiwale axis for demolition, and this compensation going on now for that ring road, I think it is okay and it is right, because these houses were built. Normally, lands were bought and built, and compensations needs to be made. If government now sees that these places will be used and sees the need to use those places, but this along this Obiwale road, this landlord intentionally built their houses, came out of the road, close to the road, just built shops. They built out shops into the road. So for those buildings that are marked now, is it the government's responsibility to demolish and compensate, or should the government go to these landlords and tell them, please, you have encroached into the road, you have to demolish by yourself and clear it? So going further, is that necessary? Is it okay for government to demand that these landlords demolish these extra structures that they built that are encroached into the roads?
Okay.
Thank you, Femi.
All right, thank you very much for that question. And let's hear from Michael in GRA before we go to my guest so she responds to some of the questions. Michael, good morning. Go ahead.
Yes, good morning.
Yes, go on.
I was actually wondering why Nigerian citizens don't sacrifice something major for the government. And now, I'm also making this assumption. You know, while your letter was talking, she said it's not quite right that they just pay for part of the land. I think she was quite insinuating that the land has to be, paid for as well. But let's look at it in the long run. If the government now has to take a U-turn and say, okay, in the long run, we are going to change this law because it's not really right. So let's begin to pay for the land as well as the property is damaged.
All right,
so
Michael.
will these people who have lost the property and the land be compensated in the long run? That's the question I'm asking.
All right, Michael, thank you. Justice is on air, but Justice, you just hold on for a bit. Let's get back to my guest, and so that we can get a response to some of the questions asked already. Dinah Opulah, thank you for joining us again. I think we got rudely interrupted by the service providers. So some of the questions already asked before that interruption. Some people are saying, and I need you to clarify for us, who is qualified to be compensated, and is there any required documentation that should be presented first that authenticates a person? I think we have an interruption again. Okay, all right, you can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, so who is qualified to be compensated, and what sort of documentations should be met before compensation when a property is demolished in the course of a government's development plan?
Okay, the property owner, the owner of the property, that is the person. Then secondly, sometimes we can see that some landlords, like other people that have caravans that are on the road, those are the shop owners. They are the ones that use their money to do that caravan. So it's not given to the landlord. I don't know if you understand me.
Okay.
There are some people that have all these small shops where they
just build on the road.
Just those mini stuff. They're not encroaching into the main road, but in the landlord's area. So that is for the owner of the what will I call it now?
Of those small kiosks and caravans and all of that. Okay.
Then, when we are coming for assessment, we always take pictures of the property owner standing in front of the building, so that when it's time for compensation, you don't just see people coming to claim. So we write the name of the property owner. Sometimes when we are not, that's why we write the numbers. You see 007, all those little things that you see on the walls of people or people's buildings to make sure that it tallies with what we have in our own report. So when you're coming to take your compensation, we are checking the picture if this is the person we saw on site, so there is no mistaken identity. Then if the owner has died, maybe a man died with his children, they will have to choose a representative that will stand in for them as the property owner.
But if you're the tenant of a house, that perhaps was demolished, the compensation
is the owner.
Okay.
The owner of the building, the tenant is the owner that has the right, that has the document, that has everything, that has the right of the place. The tenant has already paid his own rent to the landlord. So the landlord the only thing he can do, most landlords can decide to maybe give them part of their rent to go and get somewhere else and say, okay, government is doing this and all that. They can have the discussion with the lawyers and all that. But what we deal with the owners of the building and owners of temporary structures.
So people without CFOs for their property, maybe the land on which their property is erected, do they get compensated?
They are also compensated, of course.
Okay, how does that work?
Compensated.
The same process?
There are titles that every registered title is valid. If you have a deed of conveyance, it's a valid document. If you have a CFO, it's also a valid document. So once you have a registered, once you can prove ownership of your house, it's your own. So there's no problem having a CFO or not having a CFO. You have other valid documents that prove ownership of properties.
All right, thank you very much. And back to, we were talking about the square meter and how much, how they arrive at the figures per square meter. What indices were used to arrive?
It all depends. Like I was trying to say, it all depends. For bungalow and for story building, I think for bungalow is about 45,000 per square meter, and story is about 60,000. So it depends on that is on ground.
All right then. Thank you very much, Opulah, for your time. Hope to have you some other time. We know you have a busy morning, so just allow you get back on with your day. Thank you once again.
All right, thanks for having me. Have a nice day. Bye.
All right, have a nice day. There we have it. I guess Dinah Opulah, consultant, property consultant, estate surveyor, and valuer. So you heard, and even the cost per square meter for bungalow and for duplexes. And those people who have caravans and small kiosks along the roadsides close to properties that will be demolished are also entitled to a certain amount of compensation. Remember, they are not paying for. The emphasis is they are not paying for or saying we are paying for your business, take our money and go and start new business. They are only compensating you, which means you might not get the value of what you use to start that business or build that caravan and whatever it is. And although my guest had rightly said this might not be right, but this is what the law is. So if we want it to change, then we have to change the laws. Hector is in Ogbogoro. Good morning, Hector.
Good morning.
You're welcome.
I want to have a question, but it seems that your guest has left.
You can go ahead.
Okay. I want to have a grave, a property, because I understand that this road will run through some communities in Obiako and further. So, what happens if the roads by extension affect
those graves? Compensations will be given. She already had spoken on all of that in the beginning of the conversation. Okay, Hector. So if you have a land, whether it's a borehole or there's something on the land that's built, they would compensate you for that. People even sometimes build shrines and all of those things and get compensations for it. But the point is, if it's just a simple land without any structure on it and then the government is taking a part of it, you might not get compensation because government isn't compensating for the land. They are compensating for what you put on the land. So there's a clear difference in that. Let's make it clear. The numbers are still open: 0817 923 0003. 0817 923 0003 and 0817 923 0007. The WhatsApp number is 0809 030 6416. The fear of whether many would be adequately compensated has been highlighted, and a lot of property owners in those areas that will be affected by the Ring Road project have been speaking out about it. Hopefully you get to learn a thing or two. And another important thing that was said in this conversation was you can have your own personal valuer come and value your property based on what the level of destruction to your property would be and what sort of compensation is adequate for it. So when you have that and then the government valuers come and value it, you can do a cross-examination, and that way you feel more confident and you don't feel cheated in this kind of situation. Chukuma is in Aoda. Chukuma, good morning.
Morning, my brother. How are you doing?
Very fine, thank you. Go ahead. Good morning.
Yes. I heard the first person speaking just recently that everybody will be compensated as far as you are building your property in the line that will be demolished.
Yes, and as long as you can prove ownership of that building,
it should be that every compensation should be a genuine compensation. And every compensation should follow the procedure that what the property. There's no compensation and peanut compensation. So we should not have any peanut compensation in any property. You can see what is happening in the land today and how the economy has affected everything. So there's no compensation very little as if the house is not what they do. There are agents now that will follow backyard and do one or two things. So sad. The landlord will not get anything reasonable.
All right,
so that's not for me. So channel everything direct to the landlord. Not to get any legal man on that.
Thank you. King is in Choba. Hello, King. Oh, we lost that call. Whether or not the compensation would be the kind that you'll be expecting, I wouldn't know. But one way to secure yourself would be to just get your own personal valuer first. This conversation is mainly to educate a lot of us. We're not arguing politics here. We're trying to educate a lot of people who may have one way or the other felt they were shortchanged, or you think like, oh, the government is not doing the right thing. Let's understand what the law is. If there's a problem, which my guest clearly stated, and many would not be comfortable, is the law that we're using at the moment for these compensations. The worth or value of your land is not included, which, I mean, a lot of people would be uncomfortable with. I would be uncomfortable with if I was a landlord. Why would I spend a certain amount of money to buy the land, and then you chase me out of that land, or you take part of the land, and then I'm not adequately compensated for the land as well. It's just the structure on the land. That is something that should be questioned. Yes. King is in Choba. Good morning. Hello, King. Good morning.
Good morning, my brother.
Yeah.
This is not English matter. This thing made the talk, so you get as it did though. It's very no clear.
Okay.
I will say I buy land. Then I build put on top. You say you work on Kataram. You go pay for half part where you scatter. Then you no go pay for the part where you scatter. Then you no go pay for the land when I build my house. It's very okay.
Well, King.
So, and the land, so now keep am. Because I believe say I buy them. So they need to pay for the two. And nobody go take the remaining half part of the land. So no one put much for that matter.
All right, King. Definitely going to be a conversation that will be held, and this is where the lawmakers then come in. Tony is in Obogoro. Oh goodness me, Tony, you would have to call us back. Call got interrupted there. All right, let's get on to WhatsApp. I'll take a few messages there as well. This person says, Andrew, ask your guest, what if someone has bare land? Will they get compensated? Well, I think you heard the answer to that. For bare land, if it's just a bare land, you might not get compensated. Good morning, please can you ask your guest what are the required documents? So I said, as long as you can prove, whether it's a CFO, deed of conveyance, whatever document you have that can prove you can prove ownership of your property. She even said people without CFO could get compensated as long as you can prove that you own the property. So if it cuts across my land, will I be compensated without putting any structure? Okay, the answer would be no, if we're going to go by everything that we've discussed so far. If there's no structure on the land, there's a problem, because according to the Land Use Act, the land belongs to the government if the government has use for it or need for it. So the government only would compensate you for the structure. And even the structure, the compensation is not the actual amount or worth of what was destroyed. It's going to be a certain amount to say, sorry, but, sorry for what we have done to your property. Michael in Rimodumaya. Oh, apologies. We lost that call too. This one says, in as much as the land will not be paid for, we can't consider anything given to anyone as adequate, and any act the government is making reference to should be amended immediately. Mr. Moke, exactly the point. If we want to see this change, then we have to change the laws. That is what needs to change, and that is where you now have to call on your lawmakers representing you at the House of Assembly to begin to do what is right and change those laws, amend them, because it will be outrageous. For some people, the houses might be demolished beyond, parts of it might be demolished, and then the whole house becomes really affected. You can't even stay there or rent it out or do anything with it anymore. And then the monies that will be given to you might not be able for you, would not even be enough for you to buy a plot of land in that area where your property used to be. So this is where you then find yourself. It could be described as a pathetic situation, but when your hands are tied because there are certain laws that have operated that should be followed, and this is what the law is saying about this situation, which means there's almost nothing you can do about it. It becomes really painful. But for those of us, especially people who have new houses, there are things you can do, and one of the major things is get yourself a valuer now before demolition properly would start. Get yourself a valuer. You know how many meters of the road would affect your house. Let your valuer look at it and arrive at what from the calculations what would be a fair enough compensation for the destruction that your property might suffer, so that when the own government people come, you can compare numbers and you be confident with whatever it is that you'll be getting as compensation. Okay, I'll take one more message. Nobody buys a land without intent. If Nigerians can be arrested, charged, and convicted for intention to commit crime, though they have gone ahead to... I get what you're saying. Hello, Port Harcourt is next. Thank you for your time. We're out of time already. Good morning.